Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Legends of Sport podcast. I'm your host, Andy Bernstein, and thrilled to be continuing Season 7 from USA Basketball's Olympic Showcase in Las Vegas. It was also the 50th anniversary of USA Basketball, and I got to talk to so many great people, some people I hadn't seen in quite some time. One of those people was the great Mitch Kupchak. Wow, I hadn't seen Mitch probably in 5, 6, 7 years. So great to catch up with Mitch, find out what he's doing now, and relive some great Laker history as a player, as assistant general manager, as general manager. We had so much great stuff to talk about. So, folks, enjoy this episode with Mitch Kupchak, and as always, I'll see you on the backside. Well, I got to say, this is a pleasure to have Mitch Kupchak on the Legends of Sport podcast. I've been wanting to get you on the podcast for a long time, my friend, and it's just great to see you here in Vegas. We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of USA Basketball. It's a great celebration here. I want to get to that in a minute, but I want to start off by thanking you for something, because I don't think I've ever really thanked you specifically for what you did for me and my career, right? I mean, only a couple of people who helped me on the inside. One of them was you, Gary Vitti, of course, Pat Riley back in the the Showtime days. But when you became GM of the Lakers, and, you held the key to who was in the inner sanctum and who wasn't, who got to travel with the team, who didn't. And you never said no. I would put in a request to Mary Lou. I'd like to go on this road trip, that road trip. Yeah. And you saw, I don't know if it was me personally, but you saw, I guess, the benefit of me being on the team and documenting the team. I mean, what was it? You could have very easily said, no, we don't want him on the plane or the bus and locker room and forget about it.
Well, I think I inherited you, I think. Yeah. Okay. So
I've heard that before.
Yeah, I didn't have much of a choice.
No, that's not true. You did.
But
yeah.
As a player, I think were you covering as a player?
Oh, sure. I covered you when you played.
Because the guy before you, remember Win?
Win Roberts was the original Lakers team photographer. Yeah.
And then, I played 81 to 86. Yeah. And then I moved into the front office with Jerry.
Yeah.
And, you had a way, we felt like you were part of the family. Like you had a way of getting, your job done.
Yeah.
Working with people. Everybody was always comfortable around you.
Thank you.
So, you rarely asked for anything that was unreasonable. And,
except for a couple
on top of that, you were good at what you did, too.
Thank you. I didn't mean to cut you off, because that was the most important part.
Yeah.
Except for those wacky team photos that we had to do. Those are the Lod Rosen ideas that we had.
the beach one, the boat one.
The boat one was nuts.
Okay,
that was crazy.
Yeah, let's try to keep those in the archives somewhere.
Could you imagine the guys today doing that?
No.
Could you? I mean, it wouldn't even leave the arena or the practice facility. Forget about it.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was a different era, right? The NBA.
Was a different era.
Yeah, when I moved into the front office, it was Jerry and Bill Sharman for 1 year, and that was it.
Yeah.
Mary Lou and Tania.
Yeah.
And I moved in, and then Bill moved out. Mm-hmm. So it was two of us, and then Tania and Mary Lou. And that was it, right? Now you walk into a front office, and there's like 20, 30, 35. So it was a different time in the NBA, and those were great times. Mm-hmm. But, here it is today when it's big business. Yeah. And this is a great time.
It is, of course. I mean, I'm remembering, and you probably know that Pat Riley used to refer to the Lakers as 12 plus 2 plus 1. That's Gary Vitti's famous quote. 12 players, 2 coaches, him and Burka, 1 trainer, Gary, and the rest, everyone else was a peripheral opponent.
Yes.
Wives, girlfriends, kids, photographers, media, didn't matter.
Yeah, Pat was good. He had a way to, pit you against, keep it close-knit. He was big on family, because we had the Laker wives, remember?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And everybody was close, but he also had a way of like, hey, this locker room is sacred.
Yeah.
And there's only 12 of us and the 2 coaches in the locker room, right? Yeah. And, today it is so much different. Mm-hmm. There's probably in the locker room after a game, there's probably 50 people listening to the coach.
Yeah.
And back then the locker room door would close, and there'd be 12 players, 2 coaches, and a trainer.
And maybe there was an equipment guy, but Gary, I remember doing a lot of the equipment stuff back in the day.
Gary did a lot of it the first couple of years, and then Rudy came along.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy. So when you came to the Lakers, Mitch, I mean, you had a great career going in Washington. You had won a championship there. Right. You came to the Lakers, and they needed you, right? They needed that muscle, that inside presence, right? What was that experience like coming out and you're suddenly in LA? It's a whole different ball game, so to speak, than being in Washington.
Well, I grew up in New York, right? And from New York, I went to North Carolina to play, and that was, eye-opening in itself. Going down to the South in 1972, and then I got drafted by the Bullets. So for 27 years, I was on the East Coast. Right. We would go play the Lakers, and we would stay at the Marriott by the airport. And we would take the shuttle from the Marriott to the Forum and back. And that was really all I knew about Los Angeles.
Saw a few palm trees. That was about it.
It was amazing to see palm trees. Okay, I'm not sure I ever saw the ocean except when the plane landed, right? And then I became a free agent, and the Lakers, had interest. And I found myself signing a contract, and all of a sudden, on my way to Los Angeles. Now, one of my last nights in Washington, at 11:30 at night, they had this thing on TV. I'll never forget it. And I think it was Don Kirshner's something.
Yeah, Don Kirshner's rock concert.
Yes, well, anyway, it was the Beach Boys putting on a concert in Manhattan Beach.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in my room, right, in Washington, and just looking at this concert, and I'm saying to myself, I'm going to be living there within a week. Right,
culture shock.
Yeah,
Max.
And then I went right.
Yeah.
And next thing I knew, I stayed there as a player. I played 5 years. I got hurt a lot. And then Jerry asked me to come to the front office.
Yeah.
I personally, he said he needed help, but I think he needed the roster spot. That's what I think. And I was there for 35 years.
That's amazing. So you got your MBA at UCLA, right?
Yeah.
So. Was this after Jerry saw something in you, or did somebody encourage you to do that, or
no?
How did it all come together?
Well, in short, I got hurt my first year, and it was a serious injury.
Yeah,
it's an ACL, and back then they didn't know how to repair ACLs.
I remember your big brace that you had on all the time.
Dr. Job did the Tommy John surgery.
Yeah,
ended up doing a knee reconstruction, and they said you're going to miss probably at least a year, maybe two. So, and they said perhaps you might not return either because nobody really came back and played at the same level. And I did come back, but I didn't play at the same level. But I made it back, right? But anyway, I figured my career might be over. I'm going to be doing just rehab for a year and a half, 2 years. So I started taking some classes at UCLA. I lived in Westwood. And I met a couple of people there. I met the director of admissions, Eric Mockover. And after a year, he said, Mitch, the classes you're taking, if you apply to the school, retroactively, we can get you credit. So I still didn't know if I was going to return to play.
Yeah.
And I knew I was going to get paid for the next 5 or 6 years. So I was hoping if I couldn't play, maybe I could bring something to the table somewhere.
Right.
And I ended up coming back and playing 3 years, and I continued to go to school. It was hard during the season, but I'd make it up in the summertime, and maybe I'd take a class, on a Monday night or whatever. And like I said, Jerry, they knew I was doing it because, on the plane, I'm an idiot with some books out, right?
Right.
So they knew I was doing it. And like I said, I got hurt again in '86, and that's when Jerry West said, Mitch, you don't have to keep on doing this. He said, I could use some help in the front office.
Right.
Now, did going back to school have anything to do with that? I don't know.
It probably did. I mean, Jerry was a pretty smart guy, and he saw something in you that he could value, post playing, right?
So well, I guess if nothing else, he knew I wanted to work and continue to have a career. So that was, to me, coming to LA as a player was a gigantic, getting hurt was one of the biggest letdowns. But, moving into the front office, so I had, whatever it was, 30-something years in the front office in LA, and then, 6 years now in Charlotte, right?
Yeah.
So
I guess that MBA was a good idea.
Well, Jerry bringing me in.
Yeah, Jerry, of course.
And then working,
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like I said, I joke about the roster spot, right?
Yeah.
But he brought me in, and it opened up another world for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, let's talk about Jerry. I mean, of course, we're all grieving. He left the world, and all of us way too soon. We love the guy more than anything. He had a presence about him that not too many people that I've ever encountered, including my own father, had. He was, beyond the logo, of course, but he was just this incredible human being, right? Who was beyond passionate about his job and what he brought to the game and as a player. And of course, I read his book, which I'm sure you did, and how he bared his soul in the book. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't really taken I don't know if it wasn't taken seriously, but people didn't really take notice when Jerry's book came out about the struggles that he had, right? So, kudos to him for doing that, because I think it's benefited the athletes of this generation across the board. But as a person, I mean, really, he's one of the most unique people I've ever met. I'm sure you too.
Yeah. When I got to LA, he was transitioning, into a consultant role. Mm-hmm. Bill Sharman was the GM, and I think you probably know Bill lost his voice coaching.
Yes, right.
So it was tough for him to do the job, right?
Yeah.
So Bill transitioned out after a year or two, and then Jerry was transitioning into his, which is really the career that a lot of people know him for, right? I mean, he played in the 60s and 4 years of the 70s, but a lot of people know him as Jerry West, the executive. Mm-hmm. And the logo. But there's like nothing else. Yeah. So, getting to work with him, we used to travel to games, college games, like drive down to San Diego or drive up to Santa Barbara together to watch Brian Shaw at Santa Barbara or somebody in San Diego, UCSD.
Yeah.
And, I found myself in the car for 2 hours with Jerry West, right?
It's like,
and I met
a gift.
him.
Yeah.
I met him in 1972.
Mm-hmm.
That was my senior year in high school in New York, right? And the Knicks were playing the Lakers in the finals. Mm-hmm. And Bucky Waters, who was the Duke coach, I ended up going to North Carolina. Mm-hmm. But the Duke coach said, Mitch, I'm in high school, 17. Do you want to go to watch the Lakers play the Knicks tonight? I said, yeah, let's go. So we go to the game, and the Lakers win. And after the game, Bucky says, do you want to go into the Laker locker room? Because I know Jerry West. So I'm a Knick fan, but I said, yeah, you kidding me?
Wow.
Will Chamberlain, Jerry West, Gail Goodrich, Jim McMillan, who's from New York. So Bucky takes me in the locker room, and there's Wilt and everybody, and he brings Jerry over. I speak to Jerry for like 15 seconds, right? High school, 6'9", right? And it was, next day, I'm a hero in my high school, right? Saying, guess where I was, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I go to college. I go to Washington for 5 years. I'm in L.A., and, Westhead gets let go. Mm-hmm. Riley takes over, the infamous press conference. Yeah. Jerry says he's the coach, but I'll help for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So the second week, we were somewhere, I think Golden State, and Jerry and I leave the hotel. We get on the bus, and I didn't really know him that well, right? So I was looking for something to say, and I said, Jerry, I met you once before. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he goes, yeah, I remember. Bucky Waters brought you in the locker room.
Oh, get out of here. Really?
That's exactly what I said.
That's crazy.
I said, get out of here. I thought somebody put him up to it, right?
Yeah.
You know how many high school kids he probably met?
Tens of thousands.
Okay, but his memory,
that's beautiful.
He didn't forget anybody.
Yeah.
And, like I said, just talking. I mean, he would open his soul to people in the parking lot, anybody, right?
Incredible.
He was just an open book.
Yeah.
And,
incredible.
Yeah. I mean, 86 years is a good run.
A good run.
But, still.
Yeah.
It's a void.
Yeah, I know.
It's a big void.
I mean, I got to spend the last, 4 or 5 years with him sitting behind me at Clipper games. He literally would sit behind me next to the basket.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And, was consulting for the Clippers, and it was just great to see him. And he's always had, a little quip or something to say. Jerry, we always had a comment.
Yeah, he looked great. He kept himself in shape. He dressed well. He had, like you said, he had a presence, right?
Yeah, it was something about him. But he had a sweetness to him, too, that I loved. I'm going to miss him, of course.
Oh, if you meet him once, he'll never forget you. And
of course,
stop and talk to anybody. He was
So can we just talk about one of the great moments in Laker history, of course, was trading for Kobe Bryant. in the '96 draft,
Right.
right? How you guys constructed that, and the whole thing is it's just unbelievable in Laker history and sports history. The fact that you got that Jerry, both of you saw something in this young kid from Lower Merion, right?
Right.
Kind of a scrawny teenager. He was 17 at the time, right? I mean, what convinced you? What was that thing? He didn't have the Mamba mentality then, or maybe he did, but there was something that just told both of you, we got to have this kid.
Well, it's a long story, okay?
Yeah.
I'll make it as short as possible. And like I said earlier, there were two of us in the front office. So I was there the whole time when this was going on, and I had input, and I was helping out. But the whole picture was Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jerry had the vision,
to
trade Vlade Divac to Charlotte, get the 13th pick, somehow hope that Kobe would drop to 13, which he did.
Yeah, which kind of was miraculous to begin with. Yeah.
Right? And now we didn't have a center, but yet he rolled the dice on Shaquille, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing was, Jerry, how he pulled it off to this day, I don't know, but it altered really, the landscape in professional basketball.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, Kobe played in the McDonald's game, and it was very uninspiring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Those games are really hard to look good in, and he was just average.
Mm-hmm.
His representative was Arn Tellem. So Arn called up Jerry, and they were getting to know each other. They ended up being really good friends. And Arn said, I want you to work out this kid, Kobe Bryant. So he brings Kobe to Los Angeles, and I wasn't at the first workout for some reason, but it was a brief workout.
Yeah.
And in the office that afternoon, Jerry says to me, Mitch, we got to bring this kid in a second time. I want you to see him. And we also got Michael Cooper to scrimmage against him.
I remember, yeah.
So we brought him in the second time. And I remember he was at the far end of the court shooting at a basket, and he had this energy and bounce about him, and he was so thin.
Yeah.
Right?
Rail thin.
Yeah, he was just thin and didn't look like an NBA player. And we put him through a workout. It was one of the local elementary schools right near the Forum.
Yeah, I think it was, the one that was like across the street from the Forum.
Yes. Yes. Okay. I don't remember the name of it.
Was it Morningside or something like that?
No, it wasn't Morningside.
Yeah, but we did a team picture there once.
I think we did.
In that place.
So he did a workout, right? And athletically and physically, you could see it. I mean, he just had it, right?
Yeah.
And he had that bounce in his step too. Like he wanted to compete and be on. And then we put Michael Cooper out there, and Michael was towards the end of his career,
right?
But still, Michael was still pretty good.
Coop is Coop.
And they went at it for about half an hour. And here you got an all-star, all-NBA defender, playing against a 17-year-old. And all of a sudden, like, I'm looking at Jerry, and Jerry's looking at Cooper saying, this guy has a chance.
Amazing.
Right?
Wow.
And then the whole thing about getting him to be there at 13.
And then Vlade threatening to retire if he got traded.
Yes, he was.
Right. So, it's like unbelievable
what
you guys had to go
story
through.
Is that the deal we did with Charlotte, it was for the 13th pick and a flip-flop of picks. So when Charlotte drafted Kobe, everybody thought that Kobe was going to play for the Hornets, right? And there was all this publicity about the Hornets just got Kobe Bryant, right? And we had a deal with the GM. So the GM called Jerry and said, I'm not sure I want to do the deal now.
Uh-oh.
Right, because we already had the deal done.
Just imagine how Jerry took that.
It was not good.
No, I could. Yeah.
It did not go over good, and we ended up, it was tenuous.
Yeah.
But we ended up giving back the flip flop, so we had to change the deal.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, we still got the player, and it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah.
But it came very close to Charlotte just keeping him.
So let me understand something. If Vlade had retired, the deal would have been void?
Yeah, but Vlade wouldn't have got paid either.
Wouldn't have gotten paid, so
he
that's
had
the reason he went.
3 years left at big money,
Yeah.
and he was young.
Yeah. And he actually had a decent career at Charlotte.
Yeah, and then he went to Sacramento, and we played him in those games.
Had a resurgence.
Yeah, it was he didn't want to leave LA.
Yeah, I know.
We understood that, but
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to retire. You know, at that age, 26, whatever, you don't retire from the NBA, right? But yeah, that threw a wrench into things.
Well, the rest is history, as we say. And
yes,
thank you both for drafting that kid or bringing him in, because for my career, I mean, 20 years having this guy in front of my lens, and
how about that?
Just unbelievable. Yeah. Hey, the last thing I want to talk about, since we're here for USA Basketball, was you were part of the 76 team, right?
Right.
Won the gold in Montreal.
Right.
Can you just remember, is there a memory from that experience, from the entire Olympic experience, whether it's having USA on your chest for the first time or getting the gold medal? Is something you can remember?
Well, I mentioned I was from New York, right? Mm-hmm. So my mom and dad were able to drive up,
mm-hmm.
you know, and being on the podium.
Yeah.
You know, when they ask you to lean over and they put it on you. And, you know, I looked around the building and there was predominantly a lot of, you know, USA fans because it was in Canada, right?
Yeah.
And the flags are waving back and forth and the people are cheering, you know, and my mom and dad are there. And I'm looking at my college coach. And the team 4 years earlier had lost, right?
Right.
So there was a lot of pressure on us as players because everybody thought we were going to play the Soviet Union in the finals, but they got beat by Yugoslavia.
Right.
And we ended up playing them in the finals, right?
Yeah.
But the coaching staff, you know, Dean Smith, you know, he there was a lot of pressure.
Oh, I'm sure.
On him. So, you know, when it finally ended and you're on that podium and you're looking at your teammates and there's Coach Smith and the flag and my parents. Yeah. You know, that's a pretty cool memory.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, listen, Mitch, it's so great that you could stop by, that we see each other. I haven't seen you in a while. But I've been wanting to thank you. I mean, and they should have put it in writing or something, but a lot of my career was during the time that you were in LA, and I'll always be grateful for that. So thank you.
It's a two-way street. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Good to see you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode of the Legends of Sport podcast. I want to thank my terrific producer, Carlin Barker, our great engineer, Sean Gosser, and our wonderful crew led by Addison Shao and Will Allen. Special thanks to everyone at USA Basketball, and extra special thanks to Julio and Charlie for getting us some terrific guests while we were in Las Vegas. Big thanks to our friends at Fujifilm and Momento for providing really, really fun on-site photography. Thank you, guys. Folks, keep following us and keep subscribing to our YouTube channel, and tell all your friends to follow us on Instagram at Legends of Sport. See you all next time.